Hello, everybody, and welcome back to M&J Games. I'm Michael, and today we're doing a different episode. We're gonna smooth out a coaster because I had excuse me, a follower ask about um or a subscriber, sorry, ask about how do I go about smoothing the coasters and stuff. Because I feel like when I've made RMCs, I've gotten pretty good at having them being pretty smooth and stuff. Maybe this is a little bit too much down here, but we'll see. Um, and so I'm just trying to learn. Like, I'm not perfect with coasters, and I'm not going to try to pretend like I'm perfect. And I really didn't get back into roller coasters until this video game came out. So I'm kind of learning more about the shaping of a lot of the coasters and stuff. And so it's really trying to kind of learn as I go. And I got this kind of inspiration a little bit from Six Flags Over Georgia. Twisted Cyclone. It's not the exact same because the lift hill doesn't have a turn to the drop. And then I also kind of wanted to add in this curve up here. So like this isn't the most realistic RMC layout. It's kind of overly spread out in this part, and it might kind of slow down a little bit towards the end. I don't have any block sections or anything here just because I feel like it's going to be going at a lower speed, and I kind of just wanted to finish the coaster off right here. But the point of today is we're going to go through and we're going to smooth it out. But I also want to show you guys, we'll look at the video, or we'll watch how it is first before it's smooth. So you can see here that I'm the I'm using smaller pieces there, and the reason I use smaller pieces here going down the hill is because I want to have it gradually slope out, right? And then now here I extend the pieces to be a little bit longer, so I'm not using 4 meters. I'm probably using about 8 to 10 meters here. And everybody smooths differently in a way. Everybody has a different method that works. The 4 meter method gives you the best coasters, but it is super tedious. And to me personally, I made a 4 meter coaster. I feel like I smoothed everything out like 7 or 8 times, and it was still just like crazy rough. But when I made one on the PC one time, it was pretty good. So I think it's just kind of different how it just takes time, and everybody does it differently. So I'm not trying to sit here and say that this way is the best way or anything like that. I just want to kind of give some people my experience and stuff like that. So as you can see, like the building pieces, like they're not 4 meters, but they're also not super long in this instance. Some coasters that will be longer, like Giga coasters and ones that have higher hills, but a coaster like this that's maybe 100 feet off the ground tops, you're going to build with a little bit smaller pieces anyways. So let's start the test, and let's just kind of see, how this coaster looks to begin with. Now, I did smooth out this initial part first already, so this has already been smoothed through twice. And I might speed it up by like 1 more mile per hour because it really kind of loses its luster right here. So we'll see. So now we're going to go through the layout and see kind of how it feels and how it runs. We can increase the chain speed too if we need to. Yeah, so it's going too slow right there. So one thing I could do is we could just lower that down, because we don't want it to lose speed. We want it to still feel exciting and stuff like that. So instead of recreating part of this layout, let's try a couple things to see if we can get the speed up. So first off, let's speed this. I normally like to keep the chain speed at 2, but that's more just because I like the realism of it. And most coasters go pretty slow up the lift hill. So if one thing you can do is we can move this and we can shift it down. And when we smooth it out, it's going to take care of the this awkwardness that you see here. And then same thing for this part. Let's move that down a little bit too. And yeah, and sometimes when you bank, you want to overbank. So now we can kind of see. I don't know where the coaster's at. Oh, it's not. Yeah, so we can start the test. So now let's start with banking or smoothing this part here. Now, I like to smooth 3 pieces at a time, and it depends on, okay, when do you want when do you want your banking to begin? Because the further you go out, the more it's going to kind of start your inversion, right? So, like for instance, if we do this, you can see now how it started to turn this piece a little bit earlier, right? So if you're not wanting your inversion to start that early, you need to start one piece up. And so we see now, I'm just doing 3 pieces at a time. Yeah, so it's just smoothing out. It just takes time. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through this layout. I've never, oops, hold on. You know, the smoothing tool on PC is easier because you can just kind of drag it along. But it is cool how that kind of shifts you along this way. Um, it's obviously just tedious to do. So while I'm doing this, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to speed this video up until I've smoothed everything out twice. Oh, and the key before I do that real quick is, especially with this 275-degree stall, is you want to be careful on smoothing this, because you see here, if you do that, it starts to make it not quite actually like parallel. So like you see the difference in the two. So sometimes you kind of want to kind of pick and choose, like, okay, where am I going to stop at, right? And so now it's maybe enough to where it kind of stalls a little bit. So we'll see when we kind of go back around. But yeah, so like I said, I'm going to speed this up a little bit just to so you guys can still see me go through the process of it. But yep. All right, so that was one round of smoothing, basically most of the coasters, and you can kind of see already with the shaping of it how much better it looks. It might not be perfect yet, because I feel like a lot of times going through 2 can get it done. This part looks like it's probably going to need some more just by looking at it. But one thing that I wanted to make sure is I wanted to try to keep this part straighter. I probably didn't leave enough space for that, so we'll see how that looks, because that's kind of a little bit of an odd shaping. And then I didn't, kind of same thing here, is I wanted to have a little bit of a stall. So we'll see if that kind of worked out. And then that, I mean, that looks cool, kind of that heartline roll there. And then here at the end, I might adjust that so we get rid of those 2 awful supports right there. But one thing you saw me do was on here, I highlighted the whole thing, and the reason why I do that is it kind of shapens the entire little bunny hop, little airtime hill. And then same thing here when you do this part, is it kind of shapes all of it together to where, as you saw, it was kind of awkwardly shaped to one part, whereas now it looks more symmetrical all the way around. But then when you do that, it kind of also lessens the degree to which you bank. So as you saw me turn it to trying to bank it a little bit more. So those are just a couple of hints that I had. And so it's, it's not perfect. Like, it's one of those where you gotta test it out and see what works for you. So let's see, as we sped that up a degree, or not a degree, a mile per hour. So let's see how this works. All right, so that's a little bit better. You know what? That's pretty darn near good for one round of smoothing. I think this was almost perfect. I might need to watch it again just to make sure, but that was pretty awesome. This one was good as well because it kind of really whipped you in there. And then you went turned this way and then turned back. That was really cool. So you guys can see just how. Um, well, another thing too, when I'm creating these inversions, I'm still kind of working on how do I want the like where do I want the degree to be at when I'm entering that inversion? Because you obviously like when you get to the middle of your inversion, you want to get to the crest of the that little hill that you're technically on, right? And then I think when smoothing this, it kind of actually smoothed it out a little bit more than I was wanting, like unbanked it a little bit, but that part looks good. So I think the one area that could have a little bit more work would be right here. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to say, all right, I felt like this part could have been smoothed out a little bit more. So I'm going to go through it. I'm just going to do one more round on this part. And remember, round is technically considered there and back. It's kind of like in swimming, right? If you're swimming laps, just swimming to the other side of the pool, it doesn't count as a lap, right? Um, you got to swim there and back. There we go. And then we'll check it out, and this might actually work perfectly. So and sometimes it does work where you don't have to smooth it out as much. It just kind of depends on the ride, depends on how you built the coaster. And like I said, if anybody's watching this video and you have your own tips and your own hints, I would absolutely love for you to share them with us. Because like I said, I'm not trying to pretend like I'm perfect or I'm the best at this or anything like that. And so I'm always learning new tricks as well. Um, and I feel like with each park and each ride that I build, I end up like improving and stuff like that. So let's that looked like it had a little bit of a rattle to it. So let's smooth this out one more time. And that's one way too that you can try to determine it is you cannot watch the cars. And so I'll show you what I mean in a second. Um, so you can watch like the coaster cars and see, okay, how do the dummies move in the car, right? Does it look like it has a rattle to it? Um, Stuff like that. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. Let's wait for see if we can get up here to visually see it. So let's see if we can see it from this view. The key is, does the car rattle? Like, can you see the dummies rattling? All right, so you see how when the dummies came by, like the essentially where the people would be sitting, they didn't rattle side to side. They weren't bouncing up and down, right? And so to me that says, okay, that's a smooth inversion right there. And so now another way we can do it is now look at this one. Okay, there might have been just a tad bit right there. That was more from the train. So that one might not be as perfect, but it's still pretty good. And now this is the one I wanted to look at because it looked like there was a little bit of a rattle right here. No, I think maybe that was just more because this was like not actually straight like I originally intended it to be. But yeah, this looks like it's turned out pretty well. So let's ride this one more time and see how it looks. and then we'll wrap up the video. And one thing you could do too, if you feel like your coaster is going a little bit slower throughout the layout, is if you turn the friction controls on, you can click on the coaster and you can go here. And you can turn the friction. Turning it down allows it to go faster throughout the layout. Turning it up causes it to go slower. So you can mess with the friction if you need to. But I'm happy with how that turned out. And so I might make a POV of this after all and put it on the channel. But um, overall, I think, like, I do think there was one part here because it was going slow that it rattled a tad bit. And then here, I think it's because of this little. So let's try one more thing real quick, actually, before we go. So because there's not like a full track length of it being flat, I think it creates kind of an um, awkward little rattle. So I'm just gonna smooth this out as if I'm just gonna go ahead and smooth all this out together so that it's kind of got a constant flow throughout the coaster. So let's actually pause that for a second. For those of you that have stuck around till the end, I really greatly appreciate it, and I appreciate all the support and all the suggestions and comments that you guys have given to Jasmine and I on our videos. And I think Jasmine's just been really busy recently with school and different things, and so I do think she's gonna be, once some of that kind of settles down a little bit with work and starting her new job, which depending on when this is released might not be as new anymore, but I think that'll kind of she'll have time to kind of make some more videos and be on some more park tours with me and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, so we really appreciate all the support that you guys give, and let's see how this ended up. Yeah, it's definitely better having it that way. And I love this inversion here. It worked out so well. Oh, that's cool. All right, so one last thing I do want to show you guys. Sorry, I keep thinking of this. Just to give you guys an idea, let's say we turn the friction down to 0.6, okay? Just so you can visually see the difference between turning down the friction. And the reason why I turned it down that much was because of the fact that I want us to see that there is a difference. So the friction just allows it to not slow down as much, or it has less friction on the coaster cars, which allows it to keep more speed. So you can't really tell it here. I bet we'll be able to tell the difference when you get near the end. I don't know about you, but I could tell a difference on that inversion right there. It went through it a lot faster. Yeah, so you guys can see the difference there. It might not be you might be able to tell it a little bit more than others or something, but overall, I think this is, yeah, really, really happy with how this turned out. So, all right, guys. So one last thing I wanted to show y'all real quick is how to kind of how smoothing out the way I just smoothed that one out can really help with some of these turns that you'll see on wooden coasters. And so as you can kind of see me creating this, we're not going to create the whole coaster, but so let's see. So I don't, I'll be honest, I don't know how much sometimes to put banking at one offset or two. That's something I'm still learning at. And I don't know how much to necessarily bank in terms of like what's realistic for these types of coasters in that sense. But yeah, normally I'll do something like this. So I know a lot of the GCIs and stuff kind of tend to kind of really bank hard at the end as well. So now you can do something like this. I mean, just however you want to have it at the end there, right? And then now we can kind of go back up. And depending on with your hill, like you can do longer pieces if you want, because sometimes I might do longer pieces and have it kind of crest like that where it was at up 22, so now it's going down 22 degrees. And so it really just depends kind of how you want to approach your coaster in that sense. And like I said, this is not to say this way is perfect or anything like that. It's definitely not. So as we look at this to begin with, just so we see how awful and rugged it is at the beginning. Whoa. Boy, would that be awful. That'd be so terrible. All right. Yeah, so a couple things we need to smooth. First of all, I like the speed that it took there, but normally I'll just kind of smooth that part out where it doesn't have that kind of little dip. And then same thing over here. Just to kind of have it seem more like natural, like more smooth with the decline, which, one thing that I didn't do well here was it's not symmetrical. And one thing you can always do is you can do that and kind of smooth it out some, and it's going to try to make it a little bit less steep and a little bit more symmetrical. But now if we come here, and I'm going to grab 3 pieces at a time. I mean, you probably could even grab 4 pieces at a time with how small the pieces I made for this. And you know what, the way I did that turn out at the end, it might not be great, but we'll see. And I'll normally do this 2, maybe 3 times going back and forth. Just to, try to, don't want to over smooth it in terms, because then that really messes with the banking and stuff like that. It's just, and sometimes I accidentally get 4 pieces. At least I haven't noticed that to really make a difference if you accidentally vary up the amount of pieces you use to smooth. Alright, so it might not be great right there. We'll see. Yeah, so I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't like how I necessarily started this hill. How it's like you get off the chain and you right away are like half the car's turning while the other part's still connected to the chain. So I'd probably do that differently if I were to do this again. But as you can see, just kind of how I'm going about smoothing it out. And then, I mean, you can even do 4 pieces if you want. There's no like exact number. I just normally choose to use 3. And in certain areas, I'll take the entire element and kind of smooth it out. That being like airtime hills and stuff like that. So let's do it one more time. I think it's pretty smooth, the turnout there at the end. All right, we're almost done with this. And so everybody who stayed on this video the whole time, I really appreciate it. This is just to try to help give you guys a visual of it in terms of how I go about smoothing. And as I've said before, this is just my opinion. This is what works for me. I'm by no means perfect, nor do I try to be perfect with this. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on, did this work for you? How do you smooth a different way? Yeah, so you can see the difference in how much smoother that is compared to, sometimes you'll see these coasters made where it really just like there's like little bits of rattling the whole time. You can tell because the camera seems to move side to side, and that wasn't the case there. Um, and so, like I said, it's not a perfect hill. Um, I don't necessarily like how I did this first part here, and you can even kind of see when you're at this point how there's a little bit of a weird shaping in a couple parts. And then at the end, how it kind of curls back out. But overall, happy with it. And I'll end you guys with one more little quick POV of this hill. And hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Remember, drop me a comment if you have any other questions or if there's another tutorial that you can think of that you'd like for me to make. And hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.